Hey everybody, I am Meg from Loven Stamps and you're watching Maker Mornings with Meg. So welcome to our Tuesday morning video of a very fun technique. We are using blending brushes again, but you'll notice my colors are pretty different than what I showed you last week with the On the Ocean stamp set and the dies, which here I'll kind of tip up. I can't, they're out to be used, so not easy to hang up straight in our picture. But anyway, we are doing a great technique today. We're doing a blended ombre background. And one of the tricks I find, or one of the things that I think people have questions about with the blended ombre backgrounds is they kind of wonder what to put on top of the blended ombre backgrounds. And so we are going to talk a little bit about layering color on top. We're going to use our direct to stamp technique again. And if you didn't remember what I showed you last week, this was our direct to stamp technique with On the Ocean. Let's see if I can get this to focus. There we go. Stamp set. And so we're going to use a little bit different look today with the same stamp set, which is always, I think, really cool that you can take one set of stamps and make them look and feel totally different for a different purpose and a different card. So, all right. Good morning. Hey, Trish and Kelly and Kathy and Sue. Good to see everybody live. I'm going to flip our camera down and we are going to get started. So I'll just show you again the blending brush holder, which is super handy. You can, of course, just, drop your blending brushes back in here when you're done and then pull them out. It's a nice thing to have handy on your counter and so forth. So, all right, let me get this a little out of the way. All right, so we're going to bring in our paper. And our paper for this card is extremely not exciting, right? It's black and white paper. And what I did was start with a piece of thick basic white cardstock. I just realized that the supply link in the video description actually doesn't have thick basic white cardstock, but when I use basic white cardstock as my base, I always try to use the thick. And then you want to make sure that you score across there so that you don't get cracking when you go ahead and fold your card. So, but the link is in the video description for everything else we're using today. Hey, Kathy and Tanya. So we are going to go ahead and use a white as our base. So I'll set that aside, but we're going to actually layer our color here on a piece of basic white. So let's bring in some of our grid paper because we're going to be layering a lot of color on here, and I really don't want to get that all over our background. So let's look at the colors I've picked. These are fabulous choices all from the Brights family, actually. So Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, Melon Mambo. And a word about picking colors. When you pick colors from the same color family, you can pick any 2, 3, 4 of those, and you know that the Stampin' Up! Artists have already put together the color families in a way that makes those colors easy to work with together. So you won't go wrong if you're sticking within a color family. Lots of times we go between color families, but if you're just getting started or you're thinking, oh gosh, I just don't want to think today, the color families are a really great way to go. So here are the Brights. And then of course you can get things in collections. So like a collection of cardstock or the collection of ink pads. The blends are listed there as a separate. The collections of these are actually on the next page here. There they go. So those are the collections of the things, cardstock in different sizes and pad bundles and stuff like that. So things if you didn't know, you might find helpful. All right, so we're going to start off with our paper, and we're going to use our Daffodil Delight first. I usually like to start with the lightest and then work up from there. And I'm going to zoom in pretty nice and tight here so that I can really show you what I'm doing. So pick up your ink by swirling here on your ink pad, and then before you touch your cardstock, you are always smart to just give it a single tap, swirl, tap, swirl. Swirl, tap, swirl. And what that's going to do, swirl, tap, swirl, is it's going to knock off I like keep my rhythm up here while I'm talking about something else. It's going to knock off the extra ink that you sometimes can pick up sort of all like at one time. So if you'll see it best when we do the next couple colors here. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to go with Pumpkin Pie next. So swirl, tap, swirl, Okay, now if I do this, I'll show you that that tap right there is gonna really pull off a lot of that bonus ink. Swirl, tap, swirl, so that you don't end up getting that, that big, oops, inky fingers. Yeah, that big bolus of ink right there on your project. So if you do, don't worry, it's recoverable. You can go back, swirl, tap, swirl. You can go back and you can just keep layering ink on. So if you find like you're thinking, oh my gosh, my blending never looks like that, Meg. Just think about continuing to layer color over the top, and you can get darker. You can't pull ink off, but you can always get darker, add more ink on. So Melon Mambo, and to cover up some darker spots. So you can see like right here, there's kind of a dark spot right there. That is going to blend in by the time we get all of our color layered on there, because I'm just gonna keep choosing to add color until it's all sort of one continuous shade. So we don't have, you know, super darky spots. And I'm going over the intersection between those two colors so that I get really a nice intense ink. And you can see if there is unevenness, just the answer is keep adding color. So, all right, so let's see. Okay, oh, there's a little light corner up at the top, so I'm gonna kind of go over that. Now, if you are finding that you have a really dark, I'm gonna go over a little more yellow here at the bottom. If you're getting a place on your cardstock at the edge where you're getting a lot of extra color, because the edge of the cardstock is going to naturally absorb a little bit more ink, you can do two things. You can decide that you don't care, which I'm actually going with here. So you can see there's a little bit of an orange edge here, or you can cut your cardstock a little bit large and then go back and trim it, which is certainly another great option too. So kind of decide what your tolerance is for that, if you care, if you don't care, and then act accordingly. So definitely not an insurmountable challenge. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is add some layered color to this. So this is where our stamps are going to come in. So let's go a little out here so that you can see. There we go. This is where our stamps are gonna come in, and I wanna add these images here. Now some of these I'm gonna add with white embossing over the top. Hey, Becky. And some of these I want to add in the background. So things that make sense to go in the background are definitely these clouds. The birds are kind of like an option, right? They could be background or they could be foreground. Ship certainly is the foreground. And then I think to tie that together, I'm gonna use the waves in the foreground. So our background images are gonna be color and our foreground is gonna be white. So let's grab this cloud here. And I have my blending brush is still handy because what I want to do is go ahead and stamp this a couple of times, but I want it to have some of the same color selections here as my background, so I don't want it to be too strong. So I'm going to start off kind of, I think if our ship is going to fit here, sometimes I kind of hold up my stamp to figure out about where that's going to be, so maybe ship here. Then my clouds are going to start here and kind of go up this direction. Let's grab our yellow first then. So I'm gonna take this first one and I am going to ink this just in daffodil, and that's going to come down here to give us our first cloud, okay? Now our second cloud is kind of a little bit more in the orangey category. So usually I don't worry too much about cleaning my stamps really well if I'm going darker. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this with a pumpkin pie, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp here. Okay, so this is gonna end up behind our ship. Then the next one, I want to go up here, and this one I want to be a combination of pumpkin pie and pink. So I'm gonna go ahead and ink my stamp in pumpkin pie, and then I'm gonna take my blending brush to do a direct to stamp technique. And I'm just gonna brush pink here at the top of our cloudy area. I'm gonna leave myself a place to put our greeting, and then I'm gonna go ahead and stamp there. So we have kind of that two-tone. And then I'm gonna do one more. That orange is getting pretty solid on my stamp, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean it one more. And then I'm gonna just do Melon Mambo straight, and go ahead and add one more little cloud across there. So what we've done is we've added clouds to our cardstock, but we've followed our ombre here so that our tone, our color tone changes a little bit as we go. Kind of fun, right? All right, so all I did was follow the background of what we started off with. All right, so next thing I wanna do is add our heat embossing images. And so for that, we are going to use, instead of our colored inks, we're coming back to these though, because I have a major cool thing to show you for the inside of our card. Nope, not that. We're using, here we go, the Versamark pad, which is what you use with embossing powder. So here are embossing powder and the embossing heat tool. So this guy here. All right, so let's go ahead and do this first. Make sure your Versamark is very juicy. This is one of the pads that I re-ink the most of all of mine. It is a foam pad and it gives up ink really well, but you have to have enough in there. You should be able to see on your stamp that you've got a nice gloss on there. You've got a nice coverage, and then you want to be really careful not to catch an edge on your stamp. So you want to press hard enough for the stamp to contact, but you definitely don't want to rock it because you don't want to catch an edge that's going to catch powder. And then you should be able to see it's a watermark pad. You can see that watermark on there, which if you wanted something really subtle, you of course could just use the watermark. But we're gonna make it stand out. We don't want it to be subtle. It's our main image here. And I'm gonna add some of the waves to go with this. So they're gonna overlap the bottom of our boat just a little bit. Let's see how we did. There we go. They overlap quite a bit, but that's okay. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. So now what we need to do is go ahead and add the embossing powder to this. I'm going to close my ink pad. Very, very important before you get any powder out. There are 3 steps to embossing. The first step is to use a sticky ink to stamp your image. The second step is to go ahead and add powder. And then the third step is going to be to melt our powder. Oh, I have one more thing actually. Okay, I'm going to risk it. I'm opening my pad here. I'm going to go ahead and do, let's see, where'd my ship go? There we go. I'm going to go ahead and add my birds here because I wanted them to be part. Now I'm going to close my ink pad because you don't want to get powder in your ink pad. And then I'm gonna sprinkle powder over the top. Now, if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, Meg, first of all, you're dumping a ton on there. Don't worry, it's almost all going back in the container. And if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, you're talking for so long, isn't your ink drying? The answer to that is no. The Versamark will stay wet for a remarkably long time. And we are going to go ahead and flip this off and oh, sugar. All right, well, I'll give you some extra tips here. So what I'm doing is I'm flicking this. It's going to stay, like I said, wet for a long time. And you'll see, actually, can you see that? My clouds, because they were super inky, have picked up a little bit of the white embossing powder also. So I'm just gonna use my thumb and get those off. And you'll see there's plenty of powder sticking to my ship, even though I am kind of flicking the heck out of this card here. So let's do that. And I am going to clean up the edges of my image just a little bit. So one of the things you can do is, actually, let's go ahead and flick this off. And then I'm just going to put a little more powder back on there where it needs to go. There we go. One of the things you can do is you can use an embossing buddy. You can rub a little bit of like cornstarch or something over your cardstock before you add your powder so that it doesn't stick to stray areas. Let's see, actually, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna wipe this off and I'm just gonna drop the powder back on there. And there we go, that's a little bit better. Because what it's done is it has held the powder to sort of cover things up. And so it'll be enough that it won't show very much, but enough that it will the first round of powder fills up some of those little spots that want to grab onto my embossing powder, but then they won't show because the amount of powder is so small that it will work out fine. Okay, there we go. So yay, we've survived no embossing buddy. But you can see, of course, that you want your powder to go back in its container. So then what I would do is usually actually, I do kind of 2 rounds here. So the first one I'm gonna do here on our paper, and then the second one I'm just gonna drop back in here. Now the nice thing about this is that if you have powder left on your paper, all you have to do is toss it. I save like junk mail flyers and stuff sometimes for my embossing powder, just because it's easy to get rid of it. So, all right, so now we're done with our embossing powder adding. So first step, Versamark sticky ink. Second step, powder. Third step, heat tool. So I'm gonna turn this on. Cameras are funny right now. They take out a lot of background noise, so you might or might not even hear this. But what I'm gonna do is go ahead and point my heat tool here. The heat tool is very, very warm. When I first got my heat tool from Stampin' Up! Years ago, it came with directions for stripping paint. So that is the kind of heat that we're talking about here. This is not like a hair dryer. You could not use a hair dryer to melt embossing powder, nor should you use a heat tool on your hair. But what I'm doing is I'm just pointing this and moving it across. I know some people are like of the wavy persuasion. I am not. I just point this where it needs to go and then just slowly move. That way I'm sure that I'm getting 100% of my powder melted as I'm working across there. Okay, and you can see those birds really solidify. Maybe we have some silver lining on our clouds. We're gonna call that a win. Okay, and you want to keep your fingers well away so that you don't have any issues with your fingers. You can use like a hemostat or a pair of tweezers or something like that to cover or to hold your paper, but you can really see how nicely that comes across. You can also just kind of run your finger over it gently at the end to make sure you've got everything heat embossed and know that you are all set there. So, all right, so now we're gonna go ahead and add our greeting to this, and I have You Are a Treasure in Basic Gray, and I love the spirit of adventure that this card puts together. I actually have a friend who has just retired, and so I think she might be getting this card just as the all the fun things she has in front of her here to be excited about. So, all right, so let's go ahead and grab our multi-purpose liquid glue. I'm gonna give myself a glue knot hole on this side and put this down. The black layer for this is just a teeny bit. It's actually like 1/8 of an inch bigger than our rainbow piece, which makes it a really nice, super tight edge here. And then this is going to layer on our card front. And let's use some dimensionals for that. And then, like I said, I have a really cool technique that we're gonna use inside our card because the inside of the card is actually just as cool as the outside. So yes, thanks, Sue. I'm glad you like the embossing. It really sets off the black and the white and gives you a really nice crisp image. So, all right, so we need some bling for the front of this. And I kind of thought what better to use than our flat backed adhesive pearls. Oh my gosh, this is an inky finger morning. You know it's gonna be a good day when you you walk away from your stamping with inky fingers. All right, so set that far enough aside that I don't put my hand in it again. And flat adhesive back pearls. Remember to open your packages from the side so that it's easy to get them open and shut. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of these. And while I usually love to do things in threes, I'm actually going to, I think I'm gonna splurge and do a little bit more. I'm gonna do 5 on this card because usually my bling is sort of meant to harness our focal point and really bring it back together. So that would be normally around our greeting. But these are like image, decorative part of the decor embellishments. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pop them down there in the surf, which is kind of a fun way to have that. So you could also use the rhinestones would be really pretty, the iridescent rhinestones. But we have the inside of our card here, which desperately needs some fun. And actually, I love this part of the card as much as what we have done on the front of the card. So what we're gonna do is bring in another piece of basic white cardstock. And this piece, we are going to come back together with our blending brushes on. So I'm gonna bring my scrap paper back in here. Oop, I'm gonna turn this over so we don't get any powder in our things. And we're going to pull back our 3 blending brushes. And this time, instead of blending an image, or our stamp, we're gonna blend a background. So what I want is this die cut, but I want it to be rainbow, to be ombre here to match with our card theme. So I'm gonna pull here my Daffodil Delight first, and I'm going to swirl, tap, swirl, swirl, tap, swirl. And the nice thing about this is that you really don't care about the edges of your cardstock. You are just needing to fill up the space that is equivalent here to your image. So let's see, I have pumpkin next, swirl, tap, swirl. So I don't probably need to get too wide up here at the top. I just need it wide enough at the bottom to cover my space that I need for my die cut. Swirl. And then let's try one more with a melon mambo and see how that works as far as what we've got coverage on here. Okay, do we make it big enough? Pretty good. I think it's gonna be a little light out here at the sides of my yellow here. So I'm gonna do just a little bit more and then maybe add some pumpkin here out into the edge because I don't want it to be light out there at the edges. Let's see. Okay, that looks pretty good, right? Got that covered? All right, so let's bring in our mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, which is kind of the perfect size for something like this. Remember, when you're using this, you're gonna use just like the pad directions show. So 1 is this piece right here. It's got a handy 1 on it. 2 is these, get them flipped around here so you can see the 2's the right direction. And it shows using 2 of them with your cardstock and die in the middle. So I'm gonna pop this here, pop our cardstock there, and line up. Now, the thing that you don't want to do is line all these up at the top. You want to stagger them so that the whole sandwich isn't trying to get dragged through at once. So I usually do top and bottom and then the middle hanging back just a little bit. And when we get to the other side and pull this apart, we have a really outstanding die cut here. Get this out of the way. That has our ombre finish on it. Very cool. Now, if you wanted to, you could go back and you could put this in. You could add a little more color if you're like, oh, I wish it was a little bit more. But these are kind of a fun way to add some color inside of your project. So let's go here. So we're echoing the theme, and this is going to fit like this. And then through the magic of television, I also have the base of our boat here. So let's look at these dies for a second. Oh, here are our dies. The base of our boat, and that is going to be here in black. So this is gonna kind of pop here on our card like so. And then this greeting, hoping your year is full of excitement and adventure, is such a great one. I'm gonna go ahead and stamp that there in basic gray again for our card. So if you wanted to make it a birthday card, you could of course add the little happy birthday greeting in there. But this one is not going to be a birthday card. So now, of course, last time we got together, we talked about these wave dies, and you can add waves to this if you would like. Let's see, I'll show you how we did that on our last card. You could add waves to the inside. This one I used waves inside, but I didn't repeat the boat instead. And then this little wavy element here is die cut. So you could use that on here if you wanted to. And actually you could even like make an ombre piece for it and then make like waves go across there. But let's just, we're gonna call this amount of color just the perfect amount of color. And I'm going to add our boat here inside our card. And let's see, kind of like so, there we go. And then that gives us a really fun accent there inside our card that matches the front of our very colorful ombre there for the front of our card. So let's see how that kind of comes together. And then of course, you would want to stamp on your envelope. So maybe in this case, we would, go ahead and add the little wave here on the front. If you wanted to like sort of go with the theme of the multiple colors, I'm just gonna clean this off and then maybe add one more. There we go. Other images here from the stamp set, you could add like the birds there. You could put a little skull and crossbones if you wanted to. All kinds of good possibilities. So, but I like this as just a little accent image here in the front of our card. And then where did I put my card? Here it is. And then our card here to go with it. So, all right, so let's switch this back. Yay, I'm glad you guys like this. It is really pretty, isn't it? Those bright colors are just a great way to show off the stamp set and do something totally different with it. So there is, let's see, here it is. We have sort of our neutrals, drabs kind of color. So that was this one here. And then we have the totally different, very bright version of the stamp set here. So you can kind of see that same stamp set doesn't really like jump out as having a lot of variety available with it, but really changing up the technique and the colors can make a big difference in pulling a stamp set off of your stamping shelf or your stamping box and doing something totally different with it. So think about changing things up like that. So, all right, let's see, announcements. We are getting close to the end of August. Whew, not September yet. End of August, so if you have bonus days coupons to redeem, you have to redeem them before the end of the month. If you lost track of them, reach out and ask for help with that so we can get you your $5 off still. You also should know that yes, in response to all the questions, I'm sorry that I haven't gotten the details out to you yet, but yes, I will be doing a designer series paper share for this fabulous new book. Watch for those details to pop up within the next day or two, and you'll want to sign up for that right away. Those papers will be debuting on September 6th, and so I'll be excited to share some ideas for those with you. But the Designer Series Paper Share is a great way to get all of them. I think there are maybe 9 different papers, some samples of all of them so that you can see which ones you love best. And when you order your share from me, oh, hang on, I should show you this. You actually get much more than just the Designer Series paper. I'll show. I have like a packet here from, which ones do I have? So you get, in addition to the Designer Series paper, in 6x6 pieces of those. So here was one from the annual catalog. With all of that, you know that I love Delightfully Eclectic, so you get all of the papers. They come with a handy sheet to remind you what the colors are in there. And this is the best part. You get a package of ready to stamp card bases. So really easy to take your papers and your Designer Series paper or your cardstock and your Designer Series paper and mix and match. And you know that you will be easy to use. You know that you'll always have the card base color that you want. A really simple way to make the most of your papers, and you will use them. So I think that's why I get so many people saying, Meg, are you doing a swap again or a share again? The answer is yes, because you will use actually what you get. All right, so with that in mind, if you guys have any questions, let me know. If you're looking for supplies for today's project, the links are in the video description for that. And I will look forward to seeing you on Thursday with another video. If I'm not here on Thursday, it's because I am helping with college move-in, but we'll see. I'll post a graphic on the Loven Stamps Facebook page so you know whether to expect me or not. And other than that, I will look forward to seeing you again soon. So we have just a little bit of time before the holiday catalog, that September to December mini catalog launches. So again, if you can't wait till September 6th to see the inside of this and all of the great things and order all of those new stamps and dies and papers and blah, 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 you can sign up as a demonstrator in my Loven Stampfuls group, and you can pre-order items from this book in your starter kit. So keep that in mind as possibility. Link is in the video description for that stuff too. So yay. So glad that you like the product shares, and that our 2 totally different cards with this On the Ocean stamp set were such a big hit. So happy stamping, guys, and have a terrific day.